Okay, so all the directions, again, read the rubric, read the directions on final part 1, and you're going to submit that as one assignment. Make sure to include your work and the videos, all of your work, all of the videos. You can do it all on one video if you want. On final part 1 on Google Classroom. Okay, then part 2, it's on goformative.com. You're signing in with your GAIF account. There's no time limit, but I think you need to submit it. If you don't want to like close, I don't think it saves automatically. So you probably want to do it in one sitting. You can take as much time as you want. I'll even give you time at the end if you want to work with other people. As long as you're doing your own work, that's fine. If you're helping each other, I'm encouraging you to help each other, but it needs to be your own work. It shouldn't be the exact same work as someone else. That goes for both part 1 and part 2 of the final. And then part 3, which I haven't put on School Loop yet, that's just going to be the score on GoFormative. So I'll be able to see that on the website itself. So make sure you submit that once you're done. So I think I talked about everything. So just again, to emphasize on part 1, make sure you're closely reading the rubric, because that's also part of the directions. If something's not in the directions, but it's in the rubric, you still need to do it. Like use 2 methods or something like that. Okay, so any questions from you guys before we start going over homework? No questions? Are you going to round my grade up to an A, Madison?
So when you're doing?
Sorry, I'm not sure. I think you guys came in at the same time. Okay, I'll wait. Go ahead, okay. Sierra. Did you have a question?
Are you doing the part 1 video?
No. You guys keep talking at the same time. I think Sierra, what was that about the video?
When you're making the video,
I think
so
you
is
were
it like,
cutting out on
you said
me.
like solve the problem before. Like,
yeah.
I don't know if it's getting any better.
Okay, I'm not sure
before.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if I understood you correctly. Okay, but I think I might know your question. I'm not sure, but you can add on. You can add more to it as you're explaining the video, but the work should be there before you explain the video. So for the video, I'm not looking you to write out every step. The work should already be on there. You're just explaining your work. If you want to point to steps as you go or add a couple things as you're working through the video, that's fine too, but the work should stand on its own.
Okay,
so that's okay?
That's my question. Yep.
Okay.
For the video, can we look at images of our work on Google Slides and narrate
them? Yeah, that's fine if you want to do that on your video. Just make sure you separately include the work on a different file. So like one file I'm looking at for just the work, and one file I'm looking at for your explanation on a video.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Madison, did you have a question?
Never mind.
Okay. Thank you for your patience. Sorry, there's a lot going on at one time. You never answered if you're going to round my grade to an A.
Can you round my grade to an A?
We both know the answer to that question.
You should.
She tried to trick me. She was like, will you round, or what did she say? Oh, can I round grade to an A? Like, say it back in the exact words. It was more than that, but that was the gist of it.
I was like, wait, what?
But she couldn't trick me. She tried, but it didn't work.
I prefer my chem teacher because she's not on TikTok like you.
Well, let me know how that goes. Okay, other questions?
I have a question.
Yes, Frankie.
All right, on the final part 1,
Mhm.
On the third question in
Yeah.
the rubric, it asks us to find area, but it's
Huh?
not asking us to find area in the problem.
Yeah, so just you have to follow the rubric and the directions. So for the third problem, you have to you can find the area of one of the triangles and then times that by, I think there were 6 triangles. So you have
Yes.
to read both the direction and the rubric. There's a couple times where the rubric tells you to do something that's not in the directions. So make sure you do both, the directions and what it says in the rubric.
All right. And also, it's 1 3 to 4 minute video for all 3 problems, correct?
That's correct. If you want to do it as 3 1 to 2 minute videos, that's fine too. Or if you just want to do it all as one video, then it would say about 3 to 4 minutes. It shouldn't take that long. It's just a quick explanation of your work. So there's no need to be super fancy or anything. Just tell me what you did, and just so that I can see that you're able to explain your work.
Thank you.
So it's good questions. Was there anything else?
Mr. Morrison, this is just a general sort of question.
Mhm.
Like, when was the final due? Like, the both parts?
Part 1 is due on Tuesday, and then part 2 is due on Thursday next week.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
So you could have finished the entire class last week if you wanted. You had everything you needed, finished the homework, both parts of the final, but I'm just giving you till next week. And that's part of the reason there's no Zoom session next week. Well, there's really nothing else to cover. I just want to make sure you have time to focus on both parts of the final. And just another reminder, it will say part 3 on the final, but that goes with part 2. That's just the Go formative score for the multiple choice once you submit your answers on Go formative. That's nothing you have to, that's not like an extra part, even though it'll be called part 3. So there's technically 2 parts, even though in School Loop it'll look like there's 3 parts. So everyone else is okay? Okay, I'm hoping I resolved the technical issues today. So we're gonna try this out here. Okay, so we're checking the answers to the textbook, page 727. Okay, so you're checking 1 and 2 up here now. So on the graph on number 1, the scale is actually pi over 2. If you do every other unit, then it's going to be pi. And hopefully you're still thinking about making sure you're getting yourself prepared for pre-calculus next year. So it's more than just the grade. I know the grade is important to you, and that's the thing that colleges look at. But also, the grade in pre-calculus should be important to you, and that starts in this class, especially this unit on trig, because you're going to be spending a lot of time first semester next year doing trig. So this is good practice. So this is the most important unit to get you ready for pre-calculus. Okay, so I'm going to go down, scroll down. So let me know if you need me to stop or have a quick question. So I'm going to scroll down so you can see 3 and 4. You should have arrows at the end, even though I don't have them here. This is kind of old. Before I kind of thought, why don't we have arrows on these graphs? I probably should redo them. But make sure you have arrows at the end because that moves forever to the left and forever to the right. So the domain for all sine and cosine graphs is all real numbers. I'm sure you would get docked next year for not having arrows. Okay, here is, I can always go back if you need me to, but here is 5 and 6. Also needing arrows on the far left and the far right. And if it's a cosine graph, the arrows always go up from the min and then down from a max. If it's a sine graph, it just continues in the same direction it's going. So on number 5, the arrow goes down to the left and then it goes up to the right. It didn't tell you degrees or radians, huh? I guess it doesn't matter. Whichever one you did was fine. If it was in class, I probably would have told you which ones to do. I don't think it said. So yeah, oh, it says use either radians or degrees. So it was up to you. I couldn't remember. Okay, so 5 or 6. Hopefully you mixed it up a little. That would have been nice. It's good to practice both if you're able. That does change how you label the graph. So you might not be able to check if you did it in degrees, like on number 5, because the graph is in radians. But you could just divide 180 by 4. And then everywhere you see pi over 2, that's 90 degrees. Pi is 180. 3 pi over 2 is 270, and 2 pi is 360 degrees. Okay, so I am going to go down. Here is 7 through 17D, not 14, so 17. So this is all stuff that can show up on your multiple choice final. Probably should have included a video on a graph, a trig graph. Oh well, maybe next time. That'll be on the multiple choice final. For sure. And I do plan to at some point after the due date send you like the worked out solutions. Hopefully I remember. You can always email me if I forget, but I should remember. After the final, so you can just see those, and good thing to look over before first day of pre-calc next year. Okay, and then going down. See the rest of them. For the worksheet, I have a blank document, but for the textbook work, I don't have anything. I guess you probably could have scanned it, but I don't even have the textbook here. That wasn't something I remembered to grab. But I can work out problems on this file that we're currently looking at. I just might be limited on space here. Okay, so I'll take questions on the homework for page 727 in your textbook. .23 is a cool problem. You can see where the graphs intersect. So like if you were to do sine of pi over 4 and cosine of pi over 4 in radian mode, you would get the same answer. And you remember on the unit circle, at pi over 4, the x and the y coordinate were both square root of 2 over 2. So that's why, remember, when you're graphing cosine, you're graphing all the x coordinates around the circle. When you're graphing sine, you're graphing all the y coordinates around the circle. So that's why at like pi over 4, or 45 degrees, if you remember your unit circle, weren't the x and the y coordinates the same? So that's why they intersect at like 45 degrees, and then again at 225 degrees. You can see that they have the same x and y coordinates back on your unit circle. So last call, any questions on page 727, which is also called 19.1c? So that went with your notes. Okay, so last homework of the year to go over. Let's see here. Bear with me for just a second as I do this. So this is 19.2. Move a couple of things here and then share. Okay, here's 19.2. Checking the first two problems. So 19.2, you're working with a midline. That means you're translating the graph vertically. When k is positive, you translate the graph up. When k is negative, you translate the graph down. And don't confuse amplitude and A. Amplitude is always positive. A can be positive or negative. A is the coefficient in your equation. And hopefully you guys were able to check some of these on your calculator, or all of them, even better. You could have checked the odds on School Loop. So you notice the domain for all these graphs are all real numbers. The range is based on your amplitude. So amplitude is the distance it goes high and low from the midline. So it goes that number above the midline, and the min is that number below the midline. Okay, so going down here is 3 and 4. Number 3 has the constant in the front, so don't be confused by that. So that's traditionally the standard way to write it, the constant is on the right, but once in a while it shows up on the left. So hopefully everyone's able to identify a constant. Okay, going down, 5 and 6. We have plenty of time today since there's no lesson. You should have a good amount of time if you choose to work in a group, but that's going to be optional at the end. But I want to at least give you that opportunity to work with other people on your final. And after we go over this, I'll do one more overview of the final, just in case anyone missed it. And even if you were here at the beginning, still good to hear it a second time. And then I'll talk about the extra credit for today's Zoom session. And then you'll have the option to work in groups. Okay, going down. Here is and 8. Is negative. Because it's a cosine graph, your y-intercept is going to be a minimum point. It has a tie for the lowest point on the graph. And there's infinitely many minimums, infinitely many maximum points. And you're getting, excuse me, you're also getting practice with multiple cycles. So here it says one cycle in the positive direction, one in the negative direction. So you have one cycle to the right of the y-axis and one cycle to the left. Seven and 8 and 9. So notice again, I said this earlier, number 7, the amp, even though A is -2, amplitude is +2 because it's the absolute value of A. Amplitude is a distance away from the midline for the highest and the lowest point. Okay, almost done. Have 9 and 10 here. You don't have to worry about a midline on number 9 if it's y equals 0. You're just using the x-axis as your midline. That's what you did the last few lessons. Same with number 10. Just make sure you notice if usually it tells you, I know there's an exception on the last homework, 19.1c, but usually it tells you radians or degrees, how to graph. And that's why you have 2 modes on your calculator. So if you're in radians, if you're graphing in radians, you should be in radian mode on your calculator. If you're graphing in degrees, you should be in degree mode. And you can change your window based on degree, if you're in degrees or radians. So if you want to go to 360 degrees for your x max, do that in degree mode. But if you're in radian mode, your x max would be 2 pi. Okay, going down to the last two, 11 and 12. Ethan, you're so quiet today.
Yeah. Just a little tired today, Mr. Morrison.
That's okay. I just missed hearing your voice. I'm glad you can make it.
Yeah, I'm happy about that too.
Yep. It's good to
Don't worry
go.
though. I have some questions.
Okay, that's what I like to hear. We're gonna finish the semester strong.
Yes. You have to.
Yep. How you finish is always the most important part. It's not the time to get too lax, because the final is such a big chunk of your grade. Okay, so I am going to switch over to the blank worksheet. Anyone still checking before I do that? Or anyone have just a quick question before I switch to the blank document? Okay. Bear with me again. I have to pull up the file. I'm still doing a little differently. I lost connection to my Google Drive, but I'm prepared for that today. I don't know what happened. I need to reach out to Zoom, but now it's the end of the year, so I don't know if I will, but I probably will at some point. Okay, so 19.2 worksheet. I need to share this. Okay, we'll take questions now.
Mr. Morrison, can you
Only going straight from my Google Drive. But
can you help?
go ahead.
Because like I messed up on the period, so like can you help me find the periods for number 9 and 10?
9 and 10. You want to see both of them?
Yeah, the periods.
Okay. Joe, just the period. Okay, no problem.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so this one, it says it's in radians. Yay, no lag. I love when there's no lag. Okay, so the period is 2 pi over b. This makes me so happy. What a great way to end the year. I think Zoom has been having issues with so many people using Zoom now.
That's awesome, Mr. Morrison.
I know.
No lag.
This makes me very happy. Because the weirdest thing, though, it's like in calculus, I never have a lag. It's always this class. Okay, so 2 pi over b. And just to make sure you're ready for pre-calc, it's technically the absolute value of b. We just don't see any negative b's, so I don't usually worry about that. So this is going to be 2 pi over the absolute value of b. B is the coefficient of theta, so that's going to be pi. So the absolute value of pi is just pi. The pi's are going to cancel out. So here your period would just be 2. So when you label your graph, you're going by 0.5. 2 divided by 4, which is 0.5. So is that okay for number 9?
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Just making sure.
And then number 10, it's in radians again. So the formula to find the period whenever it's in radians is 2 pi over the absolute value of b. So it's going to be 2 pi, so the period is always positive, divided by b, which is pi over 6. I don't know why this makes me so happy. I was almost expecting a lag because it's my IM3 group and it always has a lag. So it's pleasantly surprised. This is the same as 2 pi times the reciprocal of pi over 6, which is 6 over pi. The pi's are going to cross cancel. So 2 times 6 is just 12. And if you're doing your scale, you would do 12 divided by 4. So every 1 unit on the horizontal axis would be going by 3.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. Thanks so much.
No problem. Okay, other questions here?
Oh yeah, sorry. I have one more quick question. So,
No,
Mr.
go ahead.
Morrison, if we're drawing graphs and our arrows are going in the wrong directions, will we get points knocked off?
You will next year, but this year the final is just multiple choice, so you're not going to be drawing arrows. I mean, you'll have to interpret and identify graphs, but just make sure for next year that you're correctly drawing the arrows. That's why I brought that up.
Okay, thank you.
So that's a big part of what we're doing here is, again, because the nature of math, it continues to build from IM1, IM2, IM3, pre-calculus, calculus. Each one requires strong grasp of the ones that come before it. Okay, so other questions on the homework? Any AP, which AP test is going on now? Does anyone know? No one? I wonder if some people are missing because
I
of
believe it's chemistry.
chemistry. Oh, I'm sure there's some few people in AP chemistry. Okay, that makes sense. It's just a little smaller turnout than I thought. I was thinking last Zoom session, everyone would want to be here. You can see my face one last time. Maybe that's what deterred people away. I don't know. I guess it depends on how you look at it. Okay, so last call. Any other questions on the homework?
No, Mr. Morrison, I doubt that's why they left.
Oh,
Trust me.
thank you.
I'm pretty sure they would want it.
It's very nice of you. Thank you. I'm going to say it's because of AP chemistry. Okay, so to wrap it up, I'm going to just quickly go over the final one more time. You can always stick around if you have questions. So for the final, so there's part 1 and part 2. Part 1 is the 3 questions. You can do it as 1 video or 3 videos, but make sure you're following the rubric and the directions. You need to read both because neither one, I would say, is comprehensive by itself. So think of the rubric as part of the directions, and then submit that on Google Classroom by Tuesday. And then for part 2, you go to goformative.com. Make sure you show your work on every problem. If you can't show work, just write a quick sentence explaining, or not even a sentence, but just a quick note explaining how you got your answer. Say graph was going up or something, I don't know, just an example. Something so I know that you put some thought into the problem and weren't just guessing an answer. So that'll be part 2 that's due on Thursday. So any other questions on the final? I'm sad I'm not going to see you next week.
Me too, Mr. Morrison. I can't comprehend that yet.
I know. At least next year, you guys can always come by and visit. So I guess picture a shoe. Oh, I don't really care. Just take a picture of something. You can decide what you want to
take a picture of Mr. Morrison.
Okay.
Me too.
You could be as creative as you want. This is your time to be creative. So you could just submit any picture. It's due in 12 minutes. And then I'll wrap it up in just a second while you're doing your extra credit before you have the option to get into groups.
Mr. Morrison, I'm gonna take a picture of my Patriots stuff. Is that okay?
Then you're not going to get extra credit, Zeke.
Oh.
That'll be an automatic F for the class.
Wait, for the class or just for him? Like everybody in the class gets an F?
Oh no, just Zeke. Don't worry. I don't need to do corporal punishment. It'll just be Zeke.
Why do you hate the Patriots so much?